There it is.
There we
Carrie Wall
go.
just jumped in. How's everybody doing today? If you want to throw in the chat, if you're here and can kind of see what's going on, we have 9 people with us so far.
Oh, fantastic. And definitely, Matt, while we're starting, if you'll check the chat in the beginning and
Sure.
then I'll check it later so we can make sure and answer all the questions.
Absolutely.
And
if you are in the room and I see multiple people in here, if you could just throw something there. All right. And I said the name right. All right. So now people are rocking and rolling. I like it. Zulay, I'm glad I got it right. Jessica from Chattanooga. Nice to see you. Hi, Marcus. Awesome to thanks for joining us today for sure.
We have lots of friends from Chattanooga.
Yeah, Atlanta. Another Chattanooga. Oh, Carrie's just making us jealous down at the beach. Come on now.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
Exactly. And whereabouts in Florida are you, Jen?
I'm in Tallahassee, Florida. So I'm the very far north of the state. So a quick history lesson. They took a horse and a buggy at St. Augustine and a horse and a buggy at Pensacola, the 2 Spanish forts, and where they met in the middle was Tallahassee, and that became the capital. So yeah, so I'm in the very far north. I'm about 10 hours away from Miami. So everyone thinks that Florida is a highway with palm trees down the middle, but I am not. I am in the north.
All right.
Where it's rolling hills and big oak trees and gorgeous territory. So
gotcha. Carrie Walls cheering on Florida State. Go Noles.
Absolutely.
Jessica's jumping in. You don't get bonus points for cheering on Florida State.
Yes, you do.
Zulay is from Port St. Lucia. We got a lot of Florida zip codes on here.
I love it. I love it. And that's exciting because this year we're back in Orlando. So a lot of people don't realize this, but Orlando is actually 4 school districts. So we're super excited to be down there with lots of our partner school districts this year in Orlando. It's good to be back home after, 44 years. It's nice to be back in Orlando, which is our real home base.
Nice. So we got a couple more people jumping on. Aaron, nice to see you. We got David, a couple Davids. Jane, Jessica, Lisa, Sylvia, thank you all for jumping on. Feel free to throw welcome, where are you from, in the chat. Happy to connect with you all. Stay connected with us too if you are online. Here's my information and I'll throw Jen's in there.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we're going to get going in about 3 minutes. Jane, I second that. Excited to come back to Florida. Always one of my favorites.
I definitely 3rd and 4th that. Super excited to be back in Orlando. Let me tell you, such a great city. And hotel and registration is open. So I was getting questions today, fielding questions about the hotels. They're already ready and on the website. So it's kind of exciting to already be back planning ahead. It'll be here before we know it.
Wow. All right, we got some close to Massachusetts is here. I like it. Danielle, nice to see you. We got Portsmouth, Pennsylvania, and Jean, thanks for stopping in. Santa Fe, New Mexico. Lisa, thanks for joining in.
Matthew, tell them where you are today too.
I am right near Foxborough. I am from Massachusetts. We got Alberta, Canada. Look at that, north of the border. So I am coming in from the Northeast, close to Boston, about 40 minutes without traffic, about 3 hours with traffic. So it depends on when you go in. Definitely when the Celtics play, but I'm actually near Foxborough, and you don't want to go anywhere near Foxborough when the Patriots play. So I'm like the traffic capital of Northeast at this point.
All right, we're getting pretty
Northborough, yeah, I used to work close to there. Harrisburg, Virginia. Patricia, thanks for joining. We're up to 32 people. That is wonderful. Tom just jumped on. James Allen, Bess, thanks for joining. Michelle, Brian, Amy Marsh, nice to see you. What's going on? That was a bonus.
Oh,
Laura is here. Kendra, nice to see you. Jessica, how are you? We got the Florida Keys, so that's way south, I think. I
yes,
should know my awesome.
good geography.
I like it.
I love it. All right, because I'm the prompt teacher, I'm going to have us start exactly on time.
All right.
All right, we ready to rock and roll? Well, welcome
Oh,
everybody. We are so excited and thrilled that you're all with us today. I will let you all know just a few housekeeping that yes, we are recording this session today. We realize this is a busy time of year for everyone in education, and there are award ceremonies and festivals and field trips and graduations. So we wanted to make sure and record it so everyone can see it later. We'll be sending it out within the next 24 hours. So you'll have this as a backup. Also, I want to encourage you all to ask questions in the chat. Matt and I will be answering questions throughout the time, just in case we don't touch on something that you're curious about. We really want to make sure and answer as many questions as possible. And it's always helpful to other people to see what you all put in there as well. So thank you for joining us. We are super excited today. The purpose of this is really for us to share with you all what exactly you can do to have your very best proposal submitted to FETC in efforts to present at our conference. So what we're going to cover today is I'm going to definitely give you a little background on FETC and why we use an RFP process, which is actually stands for Request for Proposals. So a lot of people ask me about that. So we want to make sure you're fully informed about the process. We're going to talk a little bit about brainstorming ideas and how you can create a really great presentation. We're going to talk about the content guidelines that FETC has, what we're looking for. We're going to talk about how you select speakers to join you as co-presenters, and then some of the pieces of the application, how to select the track you want to present in, how to select the format that you think would be best for your presentation, how to complete the application. And those are kind of the logistics of the process. Then I'm going to turn it over to Matt, and he's going to give you an insider's look as a featured speaker and presenter at what are some things you can do while you're coming up with ideas and some advice from him. Then we're going to wrap up with a timeline and make sure everyone gets their questions answered. So let me start real quickly by just sharing who we are. So I am Jennifer Womble, and I first presented at FETC as a co-presenter for my district in 1993. So I have a long history with this event. Since 2010, I have been working with FETC full-time on the program selection. So I am honored and grateful. I work with about any year between 600 and 800 speakers from start to finish, from the process of application all the way through the event and post-event. So I'm really honored and humbled to work in a field that I feel has amazing impact. And what you do at this event definitely is showing up in classrooms all over the nation. So I really am thrilled with what I do. I'm really lucky today to have Matt with me, and I'm going to let him introduce himself too.
Well, thanks for having me on. I'm lucky to be here. FETC is one of my favorite events every year. I'm Matt Joseph. I am a district administrator from Massachusetts. I'm close to Boston, Foxborough. In that range, I've been a principal, an administrator, a district tech leader. And I think that's part of the draw of FETC is that it has so many tracks. It brings so many people together. It's like a think tank for so many people coming together and sharing ideas. And I think a big part of that is you, for those individuals who want to present. I'm psyched when I'm looking down and it's 71, 72 people. When I logged on, I was like, did anybody sign up? Because, when Jen and I were chatting about something else we did a couple of weeks ago, she's like, you have any other ideas? And this really came from being a principal. I was a principal for 11 years and reading a ton of crappy resumes. And now I support local colleges to write resume reviews more selfishly because I don't want to read them. So I wanted to say to Jen, like, you must get a ton of proposals for people who just want to present to be their name in a program. And what we're going to talk about today is not just the logistics of how to submit it, but what's going to separate your proposal from just the random ones that go in because they want to go to Orlando on a trip?
Well, Orlando's not a bad place to go, but
It is not. It is not.
but I do want to give you just a quick background, and this does influence how we do content selection. So if you don't know, FETC began in 1981. A small group of IT directors in Tampa actually got together to try to figure out how to network their schools and bring this thing called the internet to school districts. So that insight really led to a conference that moved to Orlando for 43 years. And this event has been there not just for IT directors, but also superintendents, principals, teachers, curriculum directors, and we coaches, teachers. So the interesting thing about FETC is we welcome a very large audience that's very diverse. So we are looking for content that meets the needs of all of those.
Hey, Frank.
So a lot of what we're doing during the content selection is that we are trying to make sure that we have something for everyone. We're really trying to meet the needs of all the attendees. So something you want to keep in mind when you're creating your proposal is, why do people come to FETC? So they come to learn new technology. They come to learn about programs that have been successful. They come to learn about new technologies and new products. Principals and superintendents are coming to learn about strategies and policy issues. We have people who come just to meet authors of professional development books that they want to ask questions to. We have people who come to network so their classes can be connected around the country. So there's lots of different reasons why people come to the event, and you should really keep that in mind when you're doing your application. So what we've discovered is that we do a public call for papers, which is called an RFP. The RFP is really important to us because it levels the playing field. And what that I mean by that is everybody has an equal chance to present. Whether you're a teacher in a classroom or you're the CEO of a company, when all the applications come in, they're all scored the same way. They're all scored blind, which I'll explain in a few minutes. But it also enables us to go out and find the best practices and most successful teaching and learning programs around the country. So it's really hard to be kind of the fly on the wall in, 3,000 schools all over the state and country. So this enables people to tell us about great things that are happening in their district. So as education is constantly evolving and educational tools are constantly evolving, it's really helpful for us to have a public RFP where everybody can submit their best ideas so that we're drawing from around the country, we're following all of the trends, and we're definitely getting the best practices. So what we're really looking for is speakers who are innovative, who can articulate programs in their districts that are working. We want people who can share in their district what's working with technology to improve teaching and learning. So we're definitely an advocate. There are typically in any given year between 2,000 and 4,000 applications. So it just depends on the year and the location. And there's no limit to the number of applications you can submit. So sometimes people will submit one, and then sometimes they'll have multiple. And that's okay. So I'm often asked, is there any special or one perfect speaker profile? And the answer is no. Our speakers are very diverse. As you can see here, they come from many different countries. We have speakers from 47 states, even though we have attendees from 50. It's kind of interesting. Some of them are PhDs, some of them are not. The most common titles that we see are typically those in leadership positions, but we also find that team presentations are often the most successful. So if a principal is presenting about a program in their school, many times they'll have the teacher, a coach, the IT director, all on the same team so that everybody is explaining how that program worked for them. But there is no right or wrong title. There's also no right or wrong background or certification. Many of our speakers have written books, and that's kind of important for us because we give them a platform to share their books at the event in our Meet the Author booth, but you do not have to be an author. So I just want to say, the very first time I spoke at FETC, I didn't fit in many of these categories. So what we're really focusing on is the content that we want our attendees to get. So how do you begin? You got to start by brainstorming your ideas and putting together what it is that you want to share. Your presentation at FETC is a gift to the audience. You're giving them information or a personal story, an antidote, some technology skills. There's a lot of different things that people are sharing, but what we want is for people to take away new information that they can employ immediately in their schools and districts. So FETC is in a unique position in January. So for most school districts, it's about halfway through the year. So when teams come to FETC, they want to be inspired. They want to hear something that they can use immediately to help their students learn, or new technologies they can employ immediately. So really think about your idea. Does it inspire? Is it some kind of announcement or new tool? Does it tell about success in your district? Are you highlighting some program that you have? Is it maybe a call to action, like something that people should be doing or connecting in new ways in this new kind of global education community? Many times we hear people say they want to hear the story of how a program developed or how a tool was used. So think about your presentation as a story as well. But we also know that whatever it is you choose to present, it should ignite an idea. It should make people more creative, make them curious about using educational tools. But definitely the most important thing I would say that we look for in the descriptions is that this is your authentic passion, that you are really passionate about this topic, and that it makes a change or makes a difference in the lives of the students in your district or your school. So definitely take time to think about that, because the more you analyze your own presentation, the better it'll come off to our attendees. So definitely, these are some things that you can keep in mind as you're designing your idea. Also, I want you to keep in mind some content guidelines. So when we go to select sessions for presentations, we want to look at presentations that are benefiting the attendees. So is this presentation giving some actionable insights? Okay. Are you describing in your school, classroom, or district, or nationwide some kind of transformational experience? Is there any unexpected discoveries? So you definitely want to focus on what will the attendees know when they leave your session? What will they be able to do when they leave your session? We also are always looking for human-centered connections, because although we're a technology conference, we know the importance of relationships and relationship building. So there's definitely a humanistic component to your application. And then also, as many of you are feeling right now in education, there are many challenges in front of us. So if you are providing solutions to some of the challenges we're all facing in education, that will definitely promote your application to the top of the pile. So a couple of things you should know: that if you're successful and selected, then we do provide a complimentary the lead presenter a free registration. So your lead presenter does get a free registration to the event, but you have to cover your other costs. So you need to make sure and look at your school and find out about professional development budgets. Can you use Title I, Title II, Title IV? The new federal budget that was passed last December includes a lot of training and development for leaders and classroom teachers. So you want to definitely check with your school on different funding sources that they're getting from the federal and state government to cover your travel and your accommodations. Also, co-presenters do get a discounted rate, but they do have to pay for a registration as well. And then we definitely expect all your content to be fresh and original. So we want what you're presenting at FETC to be new, to be updated, to be just in time, not something that's been reworked from a different conference or from someone else's presentation. We definitely want you to keep that in mind. And then also you're as the presenter are in charge of your own creation and your own session, and also you're in charge of making sure you follow all the copyright rules and that all of that is embedded into your presentation as well. I do get asked often, there is no charge to speak. So there's no form of payment that you can pay me or FETC to have your session selected. Everybody goes through the same process.
Before you go on, Jen, Jack, did you have a question that you wanted answered?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm calling from Manchester, England. Really interested in the subject. Obviously, technology is the future for our children elsewhere in the country, and I'm just really glad to be here. That's all from me. Thank you.
Awesome, I like it. Thanks for we got Canada, we got England, we got 87 folks from around the globe wanting to be a part of this. So that's super exciting. So thanks for jumping in, Jack.
Thank you, Jack. We're glad you're here. So let me just say that brings up a good point. So when you are designing your proposal, you also want to think about who you want to join you as a speaker. So you can apply as a speaker solo on your own, but you can also have co-presenters. And many times we suggest that up to 4 people on a panel or helping you co-present at one time is usually about the most kind of the sweet spot, because if you're working in a workshop, that's enough people to help facilitate a hands-on workshop. If you're doing a panel, it's a good number of people to have a moderator and 3 people as well. So as you're thinking about that, you can bring in other people who are partners in your district that you worked with. So sometimes it's school board members, it's other educationalists, maybe it's the people from your district who employed a program. It could be some high profile people from your district. It can be people who are passionate about what you're speaking, people who are doing things in thought leadership, other people who've employed the practice that you have. So there's a lot of different people that you can include in your presentation. When you apply, you can apply. You'll be asked when you go through the application process, the information about the lead presenter, and co-presenters can be added later on. You don't have to add them on immediately when you do your proposal. I'll show you in a few minutes how you can go back in and add co-presenters throughout the process, but definitely think about adding co-presenters. We have found that teams are very, very.
Hey, Brian.
So after you've thought about your idea, you've thought about your speakers, the next thing you need to think about is your audience. So at FETC, we have 7 tracks. And what those tracks are is it's a way for us to list the content by role. And this is really helpful for attendees. And the reason you've selected these tracks is because attendees can find content that applies to them in an easier way. Now, just because a session is selected in a track does not limit anyone who can attend. So anybody can go to any separate session that they would like to. And so it doesn't mean just because you are selected in a track, it doesn't mean that you wouldn't be able to go. A teacher could go to that, a principal could go to it, a superintendent could go to it. It's just a classification. So on the application, you can definitely look through and see which category. So assistive technology are special ed directors, special ed staff, and people in the development area. Campus leaders we consider to be principals, department heads, and your district chairs. Coaches are a coaching area where in many school districts, sometimes they're called an integration specialist. Sometimes it's a literacy coach. Sometimes it's a technology coach.
Sorry, Brian.
They take on lots of different modes of titles because different districts do it different ways. Our district administrators are a lot of times your C-level staff, superintendents, deputy superintendents, your CIO, CAO. So a lot of times they're looking for leadership content to help design strategies and policy,
Hey, Jessica.
which is different. Then also educators.
Jen, real quick, did you make me the co-host? Can you make me the co-host as well so I can do some tracking in the background?
Absolutely. Thank you for mentioning that. Absolutely. Let's take 1 second and just do that real quick. I think I definitely know that that's because I've got some sounds popping up. So
all right, thank you. All right, perfect. Now I have the wheel.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jen.
And then we definitely have a large group of CIOs from around the country and information technology staff and developers. And then also our library and media specialists. So they play many roles, as you all know, in schools, and also in some schools, they also play the role of the IT director. So they have a lot of special skills that they're trying to meet as well. So definitely when you're writing your proposal, think about who is your audience and what would be the best asset for them. All right, the next thing you want to think about is the format. So FETC has several different formats, and when you are applying in your proposal, it's going to ask you your first choice and your second choice. So we always try to match the choices that the speaker wants. Sometimes it doesn't. So sometimes we will try to get the presentation in there maybe in a different way that you hadn't thought about. So there is a possibility that we could accept your presentation and you could be placed into a different format if that's what we have available in the program. So keynotes, there are 3-hour keynotes that occur once each day of the event. We have concurrent sessions, which there's over 250 concurrent sessions in all 7 tracks, and those are 45-minute lecture style. We have thought leadership panels, and that's also 45 minutes, but that room is set to a permanent panel. So the expectation is typically a moderator with 3 panelists discussing any topic, variety of topic, but the room is set particularly that way. Our leadership roundtables are a unique situation where there are a group of 10 tables that are spread out. Each table has a different topic and a different leader. So these are tabletop conversations with groups of 8 to 10 people. So think of that kind of as what we used to call poster presentations, where people could tell about individual programs and with a smaller group of people. Okay, so a little bit different. We have then several theaters, and in each of those theaters, it's specialized to the topic, but these are 30-minute sessions. So throughout the year, we are constantly taking surveys from our attendees, asking them about things they want to learn about, how they like to learn. And then also the feedback we get now is the encouragement for lots of micro learning. People want to learn a whole lot in a short amount of time. So you'll notice that our theater sessions are only 30 minutes because we see a trend towards more people wanting shorter presentations so they can get more presentations in throughout the day. So those theaters are in information technology, emerging technologies, STEM, and then esports. And our esports theater is right next to our esports arena. So people can see and interact with esports happening in real time. If you're interested in leading a workshop, the workshops are all 2 hours and they're hands-on. All of our workshops since COVID are BYOD. So expect that people are bringing their devices, whether it's a tablet or a laptop, with them, and they're interacting with you. And they have an expectation that there's interaction, that there's hands-on time, there's time to actually build skills and leave with a creation or a product. And then finally, we have Mobile Mega Share. So that's our pre-conference event on the 23rd. And that one's a unique setting because attendees get to select 3 different topics. So you present the same thing that's 45 minutes, 3 different times. So that one is a little bit different. So these are the choices that you have when you're going in to submit your proposal. And again, you'll get to pick your first choice and your second choice when you're in the proposal process. All right, And there is an explanation of each of those on the application as well, because I know I reviewed them very quickly. So what are the requirements? What do you need to know before you even start a proposal? First of all, it seems simple, but having an accurate email address that is not behind a school district spam block is really important, because all of the emails that we send to you will come from edtechspeaker@etcnetwork.com. So we need a primary address that you check during the summer as well as year round. So selection process will be happening during the summer. So it needs to be an email address that you will actually be answering. If we have questions about your proposal, that's where we'll send them. And then when you're accepted, that is also where it'll go. So make sure that you can get emails to this address year round. Another thing that might seem simple, and I think Matt might chime in here too, the title of your presentation is very important. We limit it to 10 words, and I'll tell you why. When you download a mobile app for an event and you're looking at a small screen on your phone, typically attendees are making a choice and a selection by going through the app. A title of a session fits on one line when it's approximately 9 to 10 words. So if you want attendees to see the title of your session, it's really important to have a session that's clear and concise, and that title really represents what it is you're going to be teaching in that session. And I know Matt and I have talked about this before, because some people want to submit very long titles.
Quite a bit. And yeah, and I think, I'll talk about this when I get into my part, but one of the things I always remember from my time at Boston College, and I'm going to share some in a minute, is my professor would always say, if you had more time, write less. Be concise. People are going to be scrolling through this fast. Half the time they might be a little fuzzy from the night before, and they're just like, what do I want to see? And if I want to see Google tools for the 700th time is the title, like, no, we don't want to pass on that. Or a full dissertation length title and it's actually cut off because well, those wouldn't get picked anyways, and that's what we're going to talk about, because you put your description in the title like my mom does with her email. So it's like, get to the point. What is it going to be? And leave a little mystery there. Like, have the person like, oh, I want to read the description. And if I can figure everything out from your title, then there's no reason for me to read the description and get further. So, make it exciting as well.
Very good. Yeah, we'll have some more advice about these two items, the title and the description, in a few minutes, but those you really want to have them ready and crafted before you enter into the system. It's often easier if you cut and paste from another document. That way you already have it and you're ready to go when you get into the proposal system. And you'll also remember exactly what you submitted, so that you'll know what it is and what the expectation is after you get accepted. We definitely want to make sure that the title and the description are very clear about what attendees will get from the session. At the post-event, we always ask in lots of surveys of sessions and attendees, and many people will complain if there is a session that promised something but didn't deliver. So if you don't think you can deliver on that particular content or skill or whatever it's going to be, just don't offer it. Only put in your description and title what you really think you'll be able to deliver, and hone in on those skills. Believe me, there's a lot of things to choose from, like Matt was saying. And so we want to make sure that we're very clear and concise in the title and the description. So take some time to craft that. And it's very strategic why there are limits. We do have themes this year, as we want them to be creative. We want to build curiosity. We want to do with the conference the same thing that classroom teachers are doing every day, is making it engaging and making people curious to learn more. So definitely think about that. When you're going to apply, you also need to have a bio of yourself as a speaker. Tell a little bit about yourself. Now, some of the things that are collected in the proposal process are not seen by the program committee. These are in there so that when you're accepted, it's used in the online agenda and mobile app. So the bio and the headshot, those items are not seen as we're reviewing all of the proposals, but it is seen and used later. So just kind of to let you know, that's why we collect them up front, is so we'll have all the information when the agenda goes live in September. Also, if you're going to have co-presenters, it's good to have their information as well. And we do require that every speaker have a Twitter account or be associated with a Twitter account, because there's a lot of communication in our community that happens. So you'll need to put that in there. The last thing you'll need to know about your presentation is what products are you using? So just for clarification, it's important for people, if you come from a school with a certain OS, whether it's Apple or Google or Microsoft, our attendees need to know what you're using so that if they want to use what you're using, they're aware of it, right? So if you're using Canva, or if you're going to use Flip, or if you're going to use whatever the tool is or the product is, we have you list that in there. And that helps attendees when they're searching for things to go to find out about products, and then also to go to sessions of products that they have at their own schools. You would be very surprised at how many people come to FETC to learn how to use the things that their district has bought them because they haven't had any training yet. So that's really important. The one thing I will say here is, yes, everyone at our conference is typically talking about some ed tech tool that they utilize or their students utilize, and we appreciate that. But this is not the place for a sales pitch or a sales demonstration. Those are sessions that are purchased through the sales team and completely separate on the sponsored side of our program. And that's not something that comes through these proposals. So when we ask you what products you're using, it's for attendee awareness. It's not because we don't want it to be simply a demo or a sales pitch. There's two questions that I get asked about the most. When you are putting your proposal in, we ask you about a content area. And the reason for this is it helps people to classify and search for things to attend. So you will get to select one of these content areas on the application process. And then that is just helping attendees to search and find your session. So just one, you only have to select one, but it's just again, to help attendees. We also ask you to select a curriculum area. And it's the same thing. It's to help attendees find things that match their needs in their schools and districts. So again, you'll select one as you go through the process. So it's very clear, but both of those have to be selected. So once you've gone through the process of answering all the questions, you will hit the submit button. And once you submit, you will get an automated email sent to you with a username and a password. This logon is used in the Proposal Service Center. So you will have access to your proposals all the way until we begin grading and scoring. And so you can go in there and add co-presenters, you can make edits, you can update information. It's all in that service center and you have complete access to it. So that will be closed when the grading begins, because they'll be pulling all those through. And then also it's closed once we select the sessions at the end of the summer. So if you have any problems getting in your proposal service center, then you can just send an email to EdTech Speaker and we can help. We can reset it for you on the back end if needed. It's automatically generated from your proposal. So if you have more than one proposal, when you go in the Proposal Service Center, you'll see them all listed and you can edit each one of them. You can add co-presenters to each one of them. You're in control of that Proposal Service Center. And then finally, we're often asked, how does the scoring happen? So the scoring for FETC is what we consider blind. And what that means is that the people who are scoring do not see any of the speaker information at all. They see the title, the description, the curriculum area, the content area. That's the only information that they see. So the reason that that's important is because we want them to be focused on content only. Okay, so the other information that we collect, that's only to pull over on the agenda later on if they're selected, but we don't let them see whose proposals are which when they're coming through to be reviewed. So the things that they are reviewing them on are, first of all, is this a topic that's of interest to attendees? The attendees are always our number one priority. So is this something people are interested in, and will it engage them? Is this current or a cutting edge topic? So is this something people are really seeking out right now? Will it meet the needs again of attendees in learning new things? Is the content of the presentation, is it not just engaging, but also is it high quality? Is there expertise behind it? Can we tell that it's research based? We also want it to be relevant so we match them to the conference tracks. So when the scoring occurs, certain people score in groups based on track. So is it relevant to now? Is it research-based, and do the methods seem really clear? Is it teaching new pedagogies? Is it explaining new ways of doing things? And then also, have there been an explanation of how this can be implemented? Okay, well, again, we want people to be able to learn new things, learn new technologies, and go right back to the district and implement as soon as possible, or at least begin engaging in conversations about how to implement their ideas. All right, that's been a lot. I know it's a lot, but before I turn it over to Matthew, I just want to remind you all to keep asking questions in the chat so we can keep answering them for you, and put them in there for us. And I'm going to let Matt go ahead and talk to us a little bit about his 4 W's.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jen. And as you can tell, Jen is so passionate about this. She does so much to ensure that this is an impactful event for everybody involved. And I think that is why so many people come and are gravitated to this event, because it brings so many people together. The chat has been on fire. I followed about 12 new people. It's been great. And that's what all of this is about, is bringing people together. And as Jen shared, there's a lot of work that you're going to have to do. So if your proposal's crappy, it's a waste of everybody's time. So I want to share a few things to help you out from a real-time lens of how to make this something that the readers are going to be like, wow, this has to be included in our session, our event. And because the event has so many people coming, there's an expectation. Jen has raised the level of expectation for this event, that when you come, you're going to be able to take something away with you and put it into your work. And I think that's why I have found this to be so rewarding, is that it's not just this theory-based, come and hear some things other people are doing. It's what you can do in your work tomorrow. And I think that is a big part of what you're doing. So for me, I want to break it down into 4 pieces. But before I do that, other thing, when I'm talking through some of these things, I can't stress enough to write all of this out, type it, do whatever you want before you go into put it in, because you are so emotionally tied to your work and you just think it's awesome. Share it with a critical friend, share it with somebody else, say, read through this and what do you think? Because I have had this happen to me too. I write a blog or I do something like, this is going to be awesome. And a few people like, wow, that fell flat. And I'm like, really? Because I didn't check it. I didn't like see what other people thought, and gathering that information before you put in your proposal will help when the decisions come out. I'm also a flood the market person. What I mean by that is, I remember before I had my first article published by Tech and Learning, I probably sent in 12, and everyone's like, oh, are you okay? You had 11 no's. And I just held up like the magazine, like, my name is in this thing. How awesome is that? So if you put in weeks, well, you only have till June 5th, but if you put in like 2 weeks of stressing over it and put one in, and you're like, I hope this gets picked, and it doesn't, you're like crushed. So test a few things out, like try different way to look at different things. I'm not saying put in multiple ones, but if you have 2 ideas, put 2 ideas in. You never know what it's going to resonate with each other. So the 4 things I want you to focus on, 4 W's, and this is coming from an elementary principal lens. But we can learn something from kindergartners. So next one, Jen, you're still in charge of the flippity doodahs. All right. So why do you want to present at FETC? Sure, we can joke around about how awesome Florida is. We can talk about it's great to be part of an event. But if you're not passionately involved in what you want to talk about, don't put in a proposal, because this isn't a staff meeting. This isn't like a local ed camp, and there's nothing wrong with those. This is a very large, important national event. If you have to just say, yeah, I want to go away, or I want to get away from my school, that's awesome too. Be a participant, because there's a lot to learn. But if you're like, I'm so passionate about some of the things that I do, I know a few people are on here, Mary Alice does a lot with digital citizenship. She's on here and she's so passionate about it. You can hear that when she speaks, because what you put into your proposal is the foundation for your presentation. A couple other people I saw come in. Yuritsa's not here now, but she was here. Amy's here, who does a lot in STEM learning. I know that they are so passionate about you doing. They want to share what they're learning, and figure out why you want to present before you come, because that's going to bleed into your presentation with all the things that Jen shared. So first thing you have to do is, why do you want to present? Get your name of the program, or to share and learn from colleagues. So that is critically important. So next one, Jen. So the next piece is, who are you speaking to? So I try for myself, and I've been at the event multiple times in different roles, from a session presenter to a featured speaker to this year I did some podcasting and different things. But who are you speaking with? So if your session proposal isn't clear who the audience is going to be, then you're not going to be selected. And I know there's a checkbox of who is this for, but if your title is around one thing, and then your description is, we can't figure out who this is going to draw, it's not going to get selected. Because the other part of the selection process is, we want to fill rooms. We want people to look through this program who are on the fence of even coming or not, and say, here's 10 things I want to go to. And as a librarian, or as a school leader, or as an aspiring principal, whatever it is, you want to be able to look in that program and say, this is where I need to be. And when you're going through that proposal, the more clear you can be with who that audience is, that'll also reflect in your description. Similar to what I said earlier, the more time you have, the less you're going to write, because you're clear. The more clear that you can be of who's going to come away with something, not just the little check boxes that you have, but who's going to come to your session, who's going to listen, and who's going to put it into practice, is critically important. As I see, before I go on to the what, I see Erica said, can you apply to more than one track? Yes, I typically apply to a couple tracks, because I like to have something around school leadership. As a former principal and a current district leader, I talk about innovative leadership. I talk about, disrupting the status quo. I talk about things from a district level lens, but I also like to work with teachers or tech coaches for, when I'm doing in a couple of weeks, consumption to creation, like building things, and student voice. I'm very passionate about that for teachers. So I typically apply to the leadership track, as well as the teacher track as well. So for Twitter, if a presenter does not have a personal account, they can put in a Twitter account for the organization they work for. Absolutely. The piece of the Twitter aspect of this is the promotion, the excitement, because not only do you want a Twitter account so that you can learn something, you want to be part of the excitement. I mean, look at this chat here. I mean, it is on fire. And people, we have Brian talking, we have everybody talking through here, that you can do that through the event, because you're not going to go to every session. So having the Twitter account, like today, people who couldn't come today, are hopefully, some of you have been tweeting some of this out, not in a selfish way, but others are like, wow, what was that all about? And then they'll see the recording, and then we just get more people involved as well. The co-presenters do not have to submit, Laura, but you do have to have their email, so that when you submit, that person will get the email. And if you're selected, that person will get that email as well, and they'll have to register. And the co-presenter, as Jen said, does not have the complimentary piece of this. Now, if you're going to co-present, maybe talk about doing 2 different sessions or 3 sessions with your co-presenter, where one of you is the lead, hint, hint, and then the second one, the other person is the lead, and your co-presenters on each other. Just saying, there is a little, cheat code to some of this as well. So going back to all the things that Jen said, so you figured out who or why you wanted to be here. What is it about the work that you do that is important enough to share, that's going to really influence the field? You really narrow down, here's the audience of this session, it matches the title. And then, so what? What are you going to talk about? Like, what is the impact that you are going to talk about? It's not just important to you. How is it important to the people that walk through the door? Because the material that you're going to present, you already know it, right? You could talk to an empty room and you walk away still knowing that information. What are the people coming into that room taking away? And I say this because part of the presentation, if you're clear, as I said earlier, clear with who the audience is, but also clear with what those audience participants are going to walk away with, that's what makes the strong proposal. Not only that you are smart and you have this information or you've done something, but what about the people that are coming in? Because there is an evaluation of your session. There is this, social media aspect. There is a follow through that individuals who come to your session are going to put this into practice. So really craft some statements around what is going to be the impact of what you talk about and what you share. What will the participants leave with? What are some of the information that you're going to share that they walk away with? So all of this also, again, for me, it's about efficiency, that as you start to build your proposal, if it is one that is selected, you now have the framework for your presentation. Because if the proposal is accepted, that means it's something worthy to share. Now you can extrapolate through that and build on top of that, because we did one last year and maybe we'll do it again this year. I hope we do, around December, early January, about how to create impactful presentations, because this is just the first step. This is you getting selected. And then once you're selected, how are you going to impact the individuals who come in front of you? So start to think about that now, because a lot of what happens is a lot of local events. I know we have some around here with MassQ and different events who are looking for local people to present, to share something about their district. Well, this is a very large national event, and we want it to be impactful for the participants, who some of them fly. I mean, we had somebody on the call from, Canada to England. People, my friend Brett came over from Australia. People come a long ways to attend this event. And Jen's whole, her drive is to make sure that this is an impactful event. So think about that as well. Is there a hybrid option, Jen? Did you have a hybrid this year? No.
No.
So there is not. So come on down to Orlando. So make sure you can get there. And I think when you're writing up your proposal, this is going to be the piece that separates you. The title is number one. Is it like, okay, this strikes a chord. Now I'm going to read a little bit more. But the impact of your description is important. There's a lot of great writers out there, but what you need to do is take what you want to share and communicate how it's going to impact the people that come into the session. And then the last thing, you see, I mean, we joke around buzzword bingo, or you go into a staff room and hear the same things over and over and over again. If you don't wow somebody with what you're going to present or share, then it may not be the right fit. And I don't mean you have to go create this enormous thing or invent ChatGPT 2 on the spot at FETC. I don't mean to that level, but have your title pop, make it exciting, make it something that, wow, you want to see it. And then in your content, make it something more than just sharing a lesson plan that you wrote. And again, I'm not trying to be condescending to those who are in their first stages of presenting, but even the most low-tech option can wow somebody. And I was at a tech and learning event, I don't know, 2 weeks ago at this point, and they asked me to share something that I do that people would be surprised. And I said, well, I answer email in person. And they're like, what? And then I just talked about 10 minutes how I'm able to use technology to create a schedule, to create a map of what schools I can visit to still get into work at 10 o'clock, but visit 3 a day. And it's like, okay, people were interested. I wasn't talking about anything earth shattering at all. It's essentially showing them how to use Google Maps. But the leaders in the room, like, that's a great idea. And they're like, it wasn't like, wow, like they've never heard of that before, but it was something in our fast-paced world that they could say, okay, I can do that as a building leader, because for me personally, it's important to me to be visible as a district leader, to not just be stuck in my office and wear a suit and, be the them and the they, them and us conversation that drives me crazy. So when you write your proposal, what's unique about it? One of the things I would also look at is do your research. Look at last year's sessions. If yours sounds exactly like 7 of the ones that were picked last year, add a little flair to it. Add something that's personal to you. Add something that's unique about you. Add something that's gonna be different than someone's gonna say, I haven't heard that before. Sure, I've heard of Google before, but I haven't heard it in this way. I'd like to see it. So those 4 things, why you want to present is important because that starts your internal drive to getting there. Who is the audience is important so that you can really frame it down. Then the impact of the people who are coming to your session is going to be like weaved into that proposal. And then finally, how is it unique? Real quick. So,
And Matt, let me
Jen,
just,
that's you. I thought that was a
I know,
question.
I was going to say one thing is that currently I'm still showing the program from last year online intentionally. So if you go to the FETC website and you click under attendees and you go down to program, you can actually still access our program from January. And that's intentional because it allows people to look at it. It also allows people who went to the event can still log in and get presentation materials. And I've been answering several questions about presentation materials in the chat. We do a special training after we select the speakers to talk more about those kind of details, but there are ways that you'll be able to share all of your presentation and materials with the attendees before the event and through the mobile app. So I just wanted to put that little interjection there, Matt, since you mentioned it.
Awesome. So the last thing that we'll talk about is a timeline because it is coming up. We have a couple more weeks to put in your proposals, which is the next screen, to kind of go through the timeline.
All right.
There it is.
There you go. Here we are. So what's happening now is we're answering lots of questions. And if you have questions even after this event, EdTech Speaker at ETC Network is where we always are answering questions. We're helping reset. We're doing a lot of different things with speakers right now. But the deadline to present is June the 5th. So just to get down to the nitty gritty detail, because I know we have procrastinators, it is midnight Central Time that actually closes, because I will literally have people that day and night sending me messages. So that's when it will close. Then we'll go through a submission period of review. So we will be looking through all of the applications by track, selecting them, scoring them, and it does take quite a bit of time. Every proposal gets 3 reads. So not just one person looks at it. There's 3 different scorers that look at all of them all together. Then we look at each track, and then we look at building together the schedule. So we have so many rooms and we have so many slots to fill. And so we've got to know exactly, we know there'll be 250 workshops. And someone asked this question a little bit earlier. The only thing that we pay speakers to do is workshops. So if you want to submit for a workshop and you're selected to do a workshop, you do receive a $200 stipend for each workshop that you present. And the reason that I do that is because I truly value the time and dedication that it takes to build a workshop. There's a higher level of expectation from those attendees that it's going to be hands-on, well-designed. They're going to leave with a product. So I really want to make sure that people take the time to really do a great job preparing for those workshops. So that's why I instilled that there's a stipend for those. So if you presented 3 workshops, that would be $600. 1 workshop is $200. So it's $200 per workshop. And there were some questions, so I wanted to clarify that. Sessions are throughout the event. There's not a payment, but again, every lead speaker gets a free registration. So if you happen to have 2 presentations, you might want to switch who's the lead presenter so that each lead presenter can use the free registration as well. So just little inside scoops. I can work with you guys after acceptances happen. But we then go and have to build the schedule out. So invitations will be sent out the first week in September. And so you'll get an invitation to speak. It'll have in there the date, the time, the location, what the presentation format is, every single thing will be included in that email. There'll be a speaker contract, and we ask you to either accept or not accept it. Now, we do know that some people can't accept because they've changed schools, they have new principals, they have to wait for funding, they have to wait for approval. So we know that lots of those things happen. So we have a backup list, and then we are constantly involving and filling it until the program is completely full. And then at that time, we'll send out an email to the ones that were not accepted this year. So just so you kind of understand the process from our end. Then the people who are selected will be developing their presentations. They're asked to upload their materials to share for the attendees. And then we will be at January before you know it, and you'll actually be presenting what you've worked so hard to submit throughout this process. So I definitely want to make sure everyone's kind of in tune with our timeline so that you know what's happening throughout the summer and right into the fall. So we know that this was very informative. It's also very quick. It's a lot to take in. I spend a good part of the year traveling around the country, looking at speakers and hearing people, watching attendees in rooms all across the country. So we really try to curate the very best content for our attendees. And I'm extremely passionate about it. I'm extremely grateful for your time today in learning more about it. But also, if you have more questions, I know Matt and I are trying to answer in the box as quickly as we can. But again, Go ahead, Matt.
And I said I threw my email in there, drmatthewxjoseph@gmail.com. If you want to shoot me an email with some of your thoughts, or if you map out everything on Google Doc and want to send it to me, happy to look it over. For sure, it's definitely something that I can, look through and help you out. And if you want an extra set of eyes, happy to read it through.
And that's very kind. I will say, as a little bit of a comment there, I'm putting in also, if you have more questions, that you can send them to our speaker account. Matt is not a scorer in any kind of way. He's not a person who can select. I am incredibly grateful for his time here, but I will say, if he is volunteering time to look over your application and give you feedback, that's amazing. But he's not somebody who scores, so it's really great that you'll have like a third view at it. But it's a great idea to have a second set of eyes to look at something, especially somebody who's been to conferences and spoken at conferences before. Can I guarantee it will be warm? I cannot guarantee. We did have one time, and I think it was 2008. We actually had to wear coats. It's typically very warm, and even if it's cold, it's a blue sky in Florida. Our Canadians, we have a very large group of Canadians who come to FETC, are always very, very happy with the weather. So I can't promise it, but it will definitely keep an eye out. Global warming is keeping it warm too. So
there it is.
That's definitely happening. So continue to ask us questions, continue to send questions in. But again, I cannot thank you enough for your time and your dedication. It is definitely the presenters and the quality of content that keep people coming back year after year. And I value the work that each and every one of our speakers does. I know it's not easy, and it's on top of your regular jobs, which are, really shaping the education and the technology of this nation, which is the utmost importance to me. So I'm incredibly grateful. And I will be sending out the Zoom link to everyone who was registered. We'll also post it on the FETC application page tomorrow so that there'll be access there as well. But I would be remiss if I didn't let you know that registration is open. Travel is open. The hotels are available to be booked at fetc.org. And we cannot wait to have you join us next January. And hopefully I'll see all of you again soon in conferences around the country. But we'll definitely all get together as a community next January. And I want to say a special thank you to Matthew for taking time out to really help and assist and give a great perspective on how to be a wonderful presenter, things to think about, and definitely take advantage, because there's not many people who will offer to give you extra help like that. So I'm very grateful, Matt.
Oh, you're welcome. And I hope everyone has a great afternoon. And look at this. It is 4:59. We got you out right on time. we hit the number that is important to us as well. Being efficient for your time as well.
We absolutely. Thank you, everyone. Have a great
Thanks, everybody.
day. Goodbye.